Hey folks, 8-Bit Dave here. Just kicking back this lunchtime to take a moment to make a quick video. So I realized that this has actually been 2 years since I made my first video talking about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. And I don't post a lot of content. For me, the only time I do so is when I actually find something interesting. I mean, there's tons of creators out there that are reading the news or doing stuff every day. And for myself, I only, post the odd thing here and there when it's of interest or, if I find it's something nobody else is talking about. So yeah, it's been 2 years since I made my first video on the subject. And so I just realized that today, so it's actually a little bit over 2 years. Now, one thing that I mentioned long time ago in one of my previous videos was I was going to talk about Ethereum Classic and Ethereum, and I never did make that video, although I'd mentioned it in a previous video. And the reason why I never made the video is back in those days, if you remember the old bull run of 2017 and the beginning of 2018, is it seemed like this big change for Ethereum was imminent. Like it was just gonna come in the next few months and there was gonna be this huge shift, and that never happened. Ethereum just keeps delaying the difficulty bomb, and so everybody's mining it and life goes on. Ethereum's taken in tons of adoption. I find everything going on that whole platform very interesting, especially with DeFi. However, in the back of my mind, I still do think about Ethereum Classic, as it's called, the original Ethereum chain. And so recently something has come up that made me feel like talking about it again. Is the previous video I wanted to make was basically, I wanted to talk about how Ethereum was switching to proof of stake. And my concern back then, and still slightly a concern today, was a large part of the Ethereum community was people like me, people with a GPU miner who was mining and participating in the network. And for some of us, that was the best way to participate in something. And my fear is if you went to proof of stake, that essentially you shove all those people out and then they would end up going to Ethereum Classic. However, there has been a recent Ethereum Classic improvement protocol, and it seems to be gaining a lot of traction, and that is switching the mining algorithm from ETH hash to SHA3 or KEKAK 256 or whatever it's called. And so there's some pros and cons to that. My concern is where are the GPU miners going to go? Because everybody loves to shit on the miner. They love to say, oh, the miner just mines and dumps and whatever. But that's not really true. Sometimes the little miner like me mines to actually participate in the network. For example, I mined some Ethereum Classic a while back, and now I'm actually using it on chain for a project called Commonwealth, where I've been depositing it, and that's a separate video. I'm currently keeping track of a few statistics on that, and I'll make a video in about a month about how successful that was as an investment and so on and so forth. So a lot of miners mine to actually participate, and maybe the big miners don't. I don't know what the big miners do. They seem pretty silent some of the time. So ETC, their proposal is to switch algorithms, and the new algorithm really, although maybe for the first week or two might be GPU friendly, it's already easily mined by FPGAs, and there are already schematics out to make ASIC miners. Now, this, as a GPU miner, kind of concerns me. So let's say the scenario happens where ETH goes completely proof of stake, now you're going to have all these miners go to ETC. Oh, wait, they can't. I had always thought that ETC might absorb the GPU guys into their community. I always kind of thought they might go Progpow or some other such algorithm, and that they would score a big win by getting part of the Ethereum community into Ethereum Classic. However, I don't see that happening. So a lot of the speculation you see right now, I don't know if you guys noticed, the price of ETC has just skyrocketed. I kind of feel it's unwarranted, especially with them talking about switching to SHA3. They're not going to be absorbing anybody from Ethereum in terms of miners or community. There's no reason to. So SHA3, it does have some pros. There is an article made by the University of Waterloo, I believe, in Canada, stating that it appears that that might have some quantum resistance. So that's very forward thinking. One of the big pros that they see is the people who proposed the protocol of switching to SHA3 is they feel because it's so easy to make ASIC miners for SHA3 and really no other coins are using it or any noteworthy coins. There is like 0x Bitcoin or something. I don't really know anything about them. Is that there would be a whole bunch of people who would buy ASICs to mine the ETC chain, and essentially that would be dedicated hardware to ETC. And the reason why they would like that is, I don't know if you guys remember, about a year ago, there was a big attack on the ETC chain where there was rented hash used to create a 51% attack. A hacker did attack and then donated all the coins away. So it wasn't malicious, it was just to show the weakness of the chain. And they feel by having people buy dedicated hardware to just this chain, that it will help prevent 51% attacks, because then you won't be able to get people from a bunch of places to come and essentially create this attack. Well, I understand that, but at the same time, just as a GPU miner, I guess to some degree it saddens me. I don't want to buy ASICs. You know, I do have a little bit of ETC, but I'm not that involved. And essentially, if you want to cut a little guy like me out of it completely, well, okay, well, I guess I'm happy to leave, right? So, I kind of feel like in some ways I understand where they're going with the security, but in other ways, and the quantum resistance, and again, like there are several benefits to switching algorithms, but I just feel like it would be better if they came up with an algorithm that included GPU miners. Now, nobody likes the Progpow because you constantly have to tweak it here and there, which involves human intervention. And the ideal is you want a blockchain that just goes on without anybody controlling it or updates or anything like that. Like Monero, they constantly have to hard fork to keep it CPU, GPU friendly. And the ETC cooperative does not want to do that. And I understand why. So I get it, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. But I think that by picking a algorithm like this, it's not a good space and time. If I was in charge personally or had a little more of a voice, I would wait to see what Ethereum's doing. If they're going POS, I would pick an algorithm that doesn't have ASICs yet or plans out for ASICs. I would pick that so that you could take the GPU miners, convince them to come over to Ethereum Classic, keep mining, be part of the community, and I would just leave that alone. And if that algorithm eventually became ASIC friendly and there was ASICs for it, so be it. Just like Bitcoin. You know, eventually it's going to happen, right? Technology is always improving. This idea that you're going to have a GPU algorithm for all time, it's a fantasy, and I understand that. I just think that if you're going to kick off the GPU mining from ETH and then ETC, you might find a whole bunch of them being more interested in projects like Ravencoin or Monero, and you might lose the ability to gain critical mass in your community. So that's my thoughts on ETC and their recent proposal. I'm not as bullish as a lot of people are on ETC. I know when you watch other YouTubers and other people in the space, they feel, oh, well, when ETH goes full POS, then that's going to be a big gain to ETC as people migrate over. However, with ETC's recent choices, I don't feel that that is actually going to be the case. I feel like, you know, ETC is going to have its ASICs, ETH will go POS, and then those people will move on to other coins like Ravencoin or whatever, and just move away from the platform. I do like ETC. I do like Ethereum. For me, again, Ethereum is the place to be right now. I mean, it has the most DeFi going on. The one thing I do like about ETC is it is, for the most part, and a lot of effort has been put into making it compatible with Ethereum. So I do see a point in the future where there will be a lot of cross-chain swapping. And I almost feel like there will be a lot of apps and dApps and all this. For example, like the Saturn wallet that runs on both chains. And I do believe one point in the future, you will be able to swap tokens from one chain to another, and that there will be continued cooperation between the two chains. But from a mining perspective, or an independent mining perspective, just a little guy with a couple of GPUs who's only making a buck or two a week, I feel like they're losing out. I would wholeheartedly just go with a GPU minable algorithm. So that's pretty much my thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I hope to be making a little more content in the future. So in that case, we'll see you all later, and thanks for watching.